Hello, my Aloha tribe, and welcome to the Aloha Perspective, where you get a little bit of something and a whole lot of everything. Happy Monday. It is Monday. I can't believe we're in the really kind of the last week of September. Holy cow, when did that happen, right? So today is day number 28 of Body Mindfulness, and we are on the Wildling card. I'm not gonna lie, I've been struggling a bit the last couple of days with my mental health. I'm going, sometimes you just have things you have to work through, and they just kind of bring you to the bottom, right? They just bring you to the bottom, and that's it. But I'm gonna start with the Soul Truth cards. So before we get to the Wildling card, and I think the Wildling card is going to be really good for the body mindfulness today because it's really gonna challenge you to think. But I like this card. I never got around to him last week because, like I said, I've just really been dealing with some not so great mental health. But I didn't want to cancel the show today. So, anyways, am I willing? Am I willing? You are on the edge of something great. Can you feel it? Yes. There is risk, uncertainty, and imperfections ahead. Failure is certain, and vulnerability is a requirement. You must be brave and trust yourself more than ever before. You will reach the dream, but you must stretch yourself into a whole new level of belief and willingness in order to move forward with courage. So we did have this card on Thursday, but I like this one a lot. So today's soul action: be brave, follow your heart's compass, and lift the lid on your own dreams. Today's mantra is it's possible. It's possible. So good morning, Terrence Tucker. Good morning, older sibling. And I'm not sure if Leah's still on, but good morning, Leah. So, yeah, let's jump right in. Body mindfulness, day number 28. I'm sorry if I'm not all like, but like I said, it's been a challenge in my brain the last couple of days. And, today's the first day I've come close to feeling human. So, let's get going. Pulling the Wildling card indicates a time to connect to the most primal parts of yourself. This may mean you need to detach a bit from people around you so you can hear the whispers of your deepest knowing without the influence of others. The Wildling is raw, empowered, and independent. Many people are intimidated by them because they need little from others and prioritize radical freedom, which can be unsettling as most of society operates within unspoken expectations and contracts. The Wildling burns the contract and heads into the woods. Wildling comes to us as an ally when we need to break free of the systems that limit us. The Wildling within us remembers a time where we lived with the land, when we walked barefoot, when our lives were in alignment with the natural world. Wildling is a call for remembrance. A good way to invoke Wildling is to dive deeper into our body and hear what it needs from us on our most primal level. A balanced Wildling prioritizes freedom but remains grounded. They possess an instinct that may not make sense to others, but never leads them astray. They are present to their own emotions and needs, and will spend time on their personal development. An unbalanced Wildling is in a state of perpetual chaos. They are avoidant and often use the external for a band-aid of their internal disease, which often means they are constantly moving on to the next thing. What they move on to never ends up being what they hope for. Oh man, this card really makes sense to me. I know I wrote it down yesterday, but today it is hitting me between the eyes like nobody's been, like someone took a bat and just hit me in the head with it. First and foremost, I think I just figured out why I think I finally actually really hit the bottom. And I know I hit the bottom because I've been doing everything I can to try to pull myself up. So, first and foremost, the good thing about, I'm going to say this because I really like to be honest about my mental health. And the last couple of times that I've had kind of moving towards where I ended up this weekend, I just canceled the show, which the show started to help people with mental health. And I don't think I've been, it's been hard for me just to drag myself sometimes to the computer and go, hey, let's talk about this. And not because I'm not open about it, but because it's taken a lot of strength just to sit here right now to do this, to read this. I mean, you can see that my is not all that perky today. My personality, I'm just kind of like that. So, but I'm trying because I think it's important for people to know that Just because you're smiling on the outside, or just because you're perky a lot of the times, or you're like, yeah, doesn't mean that there's stuff that doesn't go on. Doesn't mean I don't have feelings. It doesn't mean I don't have bad days. Doesn't mean I don't lose my shit from time to time. Okay, put me behind the wheel of a car and stick me on a California freeway, and you're going to see a whole different side of me. I mean, I don't do road rage, but my windshield hears a lot when dumb people are driving around me. But you know, I mean, hey, I'm not a perfect driver, but I will say this. I'm better than a lot of them out there. However, I digress. I think, so let's cover this paragraph by paragraph. Pulling the Wildling card indicates a time to connect to the most primal parts of ourselves. This may mean you need to detach a bit from people around you so you can hear the whispers of your deepest knowing without the influence of others. Now, this could also mean you could be tapping in to your higher power, asking them for help, you know, saying, hey, look, you know what, I'm kind of stuck here. I don't know what's happening. I'm just la la la. But a lot of times when we are around people, they do have this need to be helpful, and that's okay. I get it. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think it's great that we have people in our lives that absolutely 100% care about us and worry about us. You know, older sibling knew what I was going through all weekend. She kept asking me, what can I do for you? Yesterday, she asked me that once, and I said, there's nothing you can do for me. Do not ask me that again. And I didn't say it in a mean way. I just said, you know what? I don't want to go through this, because this is what happens. I'll ask her not to do it again. She will do it. Then she'll shame herself, because she'll be like, oh wait, she'll catch herself mid drift. And then she'll be like, oh no, I'm sorry. And then she'll be sorry for being sorry. And then she starts in this whole cycle. So that's really kind of what I don't want to happen. I guess what I could do is just say, nope, still nothing you can do for me. And I'm working on that. But I think the next paragraph, I really, really think is going to hit home for a lot of us, because it definitely, set off a little light bulb over my head. But yeah, sometimes we just need to sit in the quiet. Sometimes we just need to be alone to process. I stayed up really late the last couple of nights. I took a journal I got for my birthday this year, and I just decided to kind of make it a journal where it doesn't always have to be about writing, right? I mean, journals are for anything. And as much as I've said that, I've gotten away from that. So, you know, I'm a poor artist. I cannot draw to save my life. But my drawings look like 5-year-olds draw better than me. But I didn't care. That's all I did. I mean, like, I drew a poorly drawn martini glass on one page because I was watching a show where, you know, every time they go for Friday dinners, it's a martini. And it's like, I had martini once, and I literally did a spit take. Now it was just, wow. It's like jet fuel. But anyways, I like the flavorful ones. But anyways, I will never be James Bond in my life. So, but I think that time gave me time. I mean, some of the stuff I wrote in my journal was absolute nonsense. I mean, I wrote a whole half page of the word words. That's it. Just words. And it was just, I think what it was just getting stuff out of my head. Just getting out of my head in a way. Just no matter whether I can draw or not, just doing whatever. I wrote a whole page that just said something on it. You know, just trying to jog our brains, jog our memory. You know, there's people who are fantastic. Terrence is a fantastic artist. I mean, I wish I had that gift. It is amazing what people can do. I can see it in my head, but there's a disconnect between me and the paper. The only time there's not a disconnect between me and the paper is when I'm writing. And sometimes even then you get blocked. But sometimes having that quiet and sometimes having that journal helps you to just kind of sink into something. You know, it helps you to kind of get out of your head. Even just writing all that nonsense, what to some might be nonsense, but to me, I know what I was going through. I know that when I'm just writing the same word over and over again, no, I'm not, I'm not sitting there trying to be Kubrick's version of The Shining. I know I just need to get out of my head. And sometimes just writing something over and over, I'm hoping that it jogs something. So the next, oh, you're welcome. Sorry, Sarah said thank you. So the next paragraph. The wildling is raw, empowered, and independent. Many people are intimidated by them because they need little from others and prioritize radical freedom, which can be unsettling as most of society operates within unspoken expectations and contracts. The wildling burns the contract and heads into the woods. I, by nature, and maybe it's because I'm an only child or something. Don't be fooled. Only children, the majority of us, we're not spoiled, okay? We may get more, but that's because we don't have to share it with siblings. But I will tell you, this only child did not get away with very much. So they always think we're spoiled because we get away with everything. My parents knew how to say no. My parents knew how to ground me. I grew up in an era where my grandmother would use a wooden spoon. Some people will use a shoe. My grandmother used a wooden spoon, a rice paddle, like, little rice scooper paddle, the wooden ones. So anyways, and that was, please don't judge that either. Okay. That was a different time. And, I know how everybody is nowadays. So, but, it was meant to make a point. It wasn't meant to abuse us. So you can look at that any way you want. But the point is that as an only child, I've always been rather independent. And the last couple of years, I have not had the means or mental capacity to be independent. And my mental health it's been up and down. I've been clearing out a lot of cobwebs. It's like going through the attic and throwing away stuff that people left when they moved, or you have that you just the pink house slippers. So you know what, we know, but hey, we turned out okay, right? Gen Xers are and early millennials, we all know the early millennials, we all know. But yeah, I think that's where I'm stuck, is I'm not used to asking for help. I don't like asking for help. I generally like to be able to do things on my own. And I haven't been able to do that. I haven't had a place where I can just, decide, hey, I'm going to jump in the car and I'm going to go for a drive for 5 hours because, I can't always do that, and the price of gas, holy crap. But yeah, I think I figured out that I have to learn how to be vulnerable. And it does talk about that in here. And I'll get to that in a second, because I think it's very important for those of us who are independent to understand that I think in one capacity or another, we're all independent in our own ways. We don't want to have to depend on people. Depending on our situations, we've had to kind of depend on ourselves, and we've always seen ourselves as being the ones to take care of other people, to be there for other people. And when we fall into a position where people have to help us or take care of us, it's not always easy. It can really, my pride really has taken a hit. And maybe it's not such a bad hit. Maybe this whole lesson has been for me to learn how to be vulnerable, how to ask for help. And I share that, and it's not easy for me to share that. But I share that because I think there's a lot of people out there who are like me. In fact, I think the majority of the people out there are like me in one way or another, right? I'm not alone in this. And you don't have to admit it anywhere, just to yourselves or your journals or whatever it is that however you process things. But it's not a bad thing to let people help us. It's okay to let people help us. And I think that's where a lot of us struggle. We are this raw, empowered, and independent person. We can be intimidating at times, because we know what we want. We know which way, we know how to take charge. We know how to be leaders. We know how to take care of other people. But then when it comes down to the point where we're struggling, we don't know how to ask for help. We don't know how to accept help when it's offered. It's kind of like, no, I'll figure this out on my own. But, where it says here that sometimes you need to be away from people, detach from people, you don't always necessarily need to detach that much. You can sit quietly with someone in the same room and say, look, you know what? I just need your presence here, or I just need a hug, or I just need your shoulder. But it's helpful for you to be here, because if something comes up, I may need to bounce it off of you. So in a way, the first paragraph and the second paragraph kind of seem to they fit together, but they, if you're working through this paragraph by paragraph, they're eventually going to contradict each other. Because it's telling you, hey, sit in the quiet, be yourself, be this, be that, be independent. And yet later on in the paragraphs, we have to learn to be vulnerable. And being vulnerable is letting people in there. So even if you hear the whispers. So be careful with that, okay? Because being alone is a catch-22. Sometimes there are people who are out there who are very independent, very raw, very empowered, very this, very that, but they love to be around people. Now, I think what this card is talking about kind of goes with the last part where it says an unbalanced wildling is in a state of perpetual chaos. They are avoidant and often use the external for a band-aid of their internal disease, which often means they are constantly moving on to the next thing. What they move on to never ends up being what they hope for. So in a way, this kind of goes with the very first paragraph where it says connecting to the primal parts of ourselves. Sometimes we connect so hard that we either decide I'm done, or we end up in a state of chaos where we don't, because it's too quiet, because it's too, we're too in our head. So again, that first paragraph really is a catch-22, but you don't want to be the unbalanced wildling in a state of perpetual chaos. And that's where I feel like I'm at. I'm trying to move through everybody else's stuff and trying to fix it. And I'm still doing this. I am a recovering fixer because I can't seem to fix myself. And I know I need to be fixed. I don't need to be fixed in a bad way. I feel broken, to be honest with you. I feel very broken. But I don't feel broken like a clock that isn't working. I feel broken like somebody took me and broke me into new puzzle pieces that I have to try to put back together to figure out who it is that I'm trying to uncover under all of this. And it turns out, even though I thought in other perspectives a while ago, I would say, I don't really have a person I can go back to, but that's not true. I do. And I rediscovered it when I told you guys a couple weeks ago that I had been talking with a friend that said, oh, I remember the day we met, blah, blah, blah. You were like, you're just this. And he pointed out a character in a TV show that, oh my God, it blew my mind yesterday, because yesterday was like, whoa, this person is me. It's like, who is watching my life? And I'm sure a lot of us are like that, where someone say, oh, you remind me so much of this person on the TV, and we don't watch the show, we don't say this, but it reminded me, and I know that it was meant for me. And I know that it was meant for me to, because somebody, told me to watch the show a while ago, and I never did. It's been sitting in my watch list for forever. Then I started it, got about 10 episodes in, sibling found out and wanted to watch it, so I started over, and and we've been watching it together. But what I realize is that, sometimes when people point these things out to us and we don't watch something right away, it's because we're not meant to until a certain time. There's a timing for everything. And that show just happened to come at the right part of this journey that I'm on. Because I realized, even though I felt completely dead inside this whole weekend, and I feel like there's, when you're trying to light a lighter and it just kind of sparks, but it doesn't quite light yet, that's where I feel like I'm at now. Which is better than nothing at all, right? It's better than no spark. And I'm just trying to figure things out in my head. We go through all these things where all these things we thought we'd have in life, we don't have. All these things that we wanted in life are still things that we long for, that we wish for. And sometimes they can make you feel broken. They can make you feel unwanted. They can make you feel like you're not good enough for somebody. They can make you feel like you're not good enough for the world. And that's where I kind of am right now. I'm trying to figure out, this puzzle of mine. It's not the same puzzle that it used to be. Like I said, someone took this picture, printed it, and then broke it into new puzzle pieces. And it's about me putting it back together and trying to figure it out. But I realize now that maybe I'm not supposed to be doing this alone. Maybe, that sometimes those outside influences of friends and family and people that care about us are actually necessary. It doesn't mean they're going to figure it out for us, but it does mean that they can be there, or we can bounce things off of them, or we can listen to them when they say nice things, saying, hey, you know what? You're a good kid. You deserve all these things. This older sibling was giving me all these compliments this morning, and she's all like, but they were heartfelt. And in the past, when I've been going through these things, I would just say like, ugh, but instead I took it and I said, I'm just like, thanks, And I think that's what we need to do. We need to accept how people see us. We need to, like when it's good. If somebody's sitting here saying something bad about you, you either need to reevaluate some of the things you're doing, or they're just in a bad place. Okay, but I mean, I know that I have been a pain in my ass, or pain in the ass sometimes. I mean, we're human. We're going to be that kind of person. But, I've also had people that just have looked at me and think I couldn't change from the way I used to be, or the way they thought I was. I mean, I had a lot of things that were not all that great, that kind of contributed to my personality, that kind of contributed to me being withdrawn and sometimes a little tense or wound too tight. And I'm learning how to unwind a bit, and so I'm trying to learn my best on how to go with the flow. And that's what I love about this Wildling card, is it is trying to teach us how to get to that primal part of ourselves. Go into those proverbial woods, where the quiet is. I mean, you don't have to go into the actual woods. And if you do, don't get lost, please, okay? So just stay where you can still hear people, but be in the silence. Put on some headphones or something. Oh, but watch out for wild animals. So, you know what? Go to a park. Just go to a park. Just go to a local park, okay? Sit around the trees. But no, I mean, there's nothing wrong with hiking and trails and just I love being amongst nature. I love being amongst nature. I think one of the reasons I love going to the beach so much is because the mountains, I mean, like legit, are super far. I mean, you want to get near any real amount of trees, you have to go into the mountains. And, I mean, this is California. And, I mean, where I live. I mean, Northern California, it's a little more accessible. But Southern California, not that easy. But, and traffic. But, so, I choose the beach. And I love the beach. I'm a water baby. But, sorry, you know what? I'm all over the place. And I think it's very, very clear that I'm all over the place. But, I think I love this card because it really does speak to how when we lose ourselves, when we get lost, how we really kind of need to go in. We have to find that primal part of ourselves. We have to find that pillow that's really thick and scream into it if we need to, or just find a bunch of plastic things and throw it at your fence or your wall or something. And I say plastic so it doesn't break, right? I mean, if you want to go break something, break it where nobody's going to get hurt. All right, or go to one of those rooms. They have those rooms where they put you in all this stuff and they give you a bat and boom, you can go to town on whatever it is you want to go to town on. But sometimes we need it right away, and I've found sometimes it's just screaming into a really big pillow, letting people know so they know you're not dying or anything. But just I've been in the car and just screamed. When driving down the freeway, it's just, I mean, that's not safe, so don't do that. I did that once and it was okay. I did it once, but yeah, I don't recommend it because I got pretty emotional and had to pull over off the freeway. So yeah, sometimes we have to get into that primal part of ourselves and really, really kind of, get back in touch with who we are at the core of who we are. So the Wildling comes to us as an ally when we need to break free of the systems that limit us. The Wildling within us remembers a time where we lived with the land, when we walked barefoot, when our lives were in alignment with the natural world. Wildling is a call for remembrance. I think here, Wildling comes to us as an ally when we need to break free of the systems that limit us. Sometimes I think when we're super duper independent, and we feel very raw and very empowered, sometimes I think that can be a limitation because we're taught to just not have to depend on people, right? We hear people say all the time, well, if you want something done right, you got to do it yourself. That's not always necessarily true. We just think it's true because people aren't doing it the way we want it done, but they may be doing it the right way. We don't know that the way we're doing it is the right way unless we're a professional in it, right? I mean, everybody has their own way. I mean, I am certified in the Ho'oponopono and I'm certified in Reiki, but everybody has their own style of how they do it. Everybody has their own way, of how they execute the actions. There is no one right way unless you're fixing something. And And even then, you may have an idea on how it should be done. Somebody else may have an idea on how it should be done. If you're asking for help, listen to suggestions, decide if it'll work, and then maybe compromise. I think sometimes what we forget, especially in relationships of any type, is communication. But, the other big C word is compromise. There's communication and there's compromise. And I think a lot of times we forget to compromise. But even outside of a relationship, when you're asking for help, you have to listen to suggestions. Because whatever it is you're doing, it's not working, which is why you're asking for help. Now, maybe you're doing something and maybe it's missing a piece and you ask for help, and this person may be supplying that piece you need. But if you're not willing to listen, why are you asking for help? We have to learn to be vulnerable to a degree. It's okay to ask for help. We don't have to be independent every single moment of our lives. We don't have to be that. I mean, if you ask for help, you're still this raw, empowered, independent person. Because, I'll tell you, it takes more strength to ask for help than it does to try to do it on your own and consistently fail over and over and over again, when you have someone standing right next to you going, hey, let me help you. Let me see if we can do this. I mean, just as an example, the other day, older sibling and I were struggling to get the whipped cream top off of the can. Okay. It was just one of those weird, things where normally you pull the tab and it peels off, that peels it all the way around. But this one was so thick at the edge, the way it was cut, nothing was working. And so, I tried it, or sibling tried it, I tried it, she tried it again, I took it back, and finally I saw this little thing inside of the cup and I said, oh, here, let me try this. Well, when I pulled it out, turns out it was a plier. But the plier didn't work because it was too thick. So we opened another thing and we just pried the shit off of that thing. But we did it together. Okay, it wasn't like this thing where I know for me, it's like, no, I can figure it out. I can get it. I can do this. And I kind of did that with the other thing, but it was just kind of I know it seems so simple, but the whipped cream can really is serving as a metaphor, as a lesson, that something so simple can sometimes need more than one person working on it. So what might seem simple to us, especially when we're dealing with our mental health, when we're dealing with our body mindfulness. I mean, you're probably wondering, like, what the hell does this all have to do with body mindfulness? It says everything to do with body mindfulness. We spent a good part of the body mindfulness series working on how to love ourselves. But if we can't get the rest of our shit straight, we're going to fall back into old patterns. That's what all this is about. Even the manifesting. All these things, they all work into one big thing, that everything we feel about our body, it starts in here. And sometimes when we are the wildling, when we do not feel raw or empowered or independent anymore, if you're like me, you eat. God, you should have seen me this weekend. I emotionally ate like a crazy woman. I did. That's why I'm always saying I'm a recovering emotional eater. Not recovered, recovering. And I was just kind of like, whatever, I didn't care. And I think part of it is because, like I said, I feel like I haven't been able to be as independent as I want to be. And if that is my lesson and it's taken this long for me to get it, don't be me. Don't take 1,000 years to figure out one simple thing, that it's okay to be vulnerable. And I've said this before, that sometimes we have to be vulnerable, but saying it and doing it are two different things. Being vulnerable and, being independent can go hand in hand. It's like, when we talk about surrender, right? They'll say you have to surrender to your blah, blah, blah. But a lot of us hear surrender and we immediately, I should say, associate it with giving up. Surrendering is not giving up. It's knowing when you can't do something alone. It's knowing when the battle's lost. Sure. I mean, that's what we normally associate surrender with, right? But when it comes to ourselves, when it comes to this vulnerability, surrendering to vulnerability doesn't mean you're giving up. It means you're saying, hey, I'm willing to work with this because I have to. You're not surrendering to the vulnerability. You're surrendering all of this stuff that's not working for you anymore. And by surrendering to that vulnerability, you're really kind of in a way freeing yourself. You're allowing yourself to be independent. You're allowing yourself to go free because you're not beholden to a certain ideal anymore. You're not beholden to that limited pattern, that limited belief. You were empowering yourself by saying, hey, I can be vulnerable and independent at the same time. I can ask for help, but still know that I am independent. And I think for a lot of us, it's hard because everything is so black and white. Everything has its perfect place. Everything is it's regimented. The things that we don't understand, we compartmentalize, and sometimes those compartments, they shake loose and everything falls out. And then we're scattered, right? We are that wildling, who's unbalanced and sitting in a perpetual state of chaos. I mean, I am literally organized chaos sometimes. And people will be like, how can you be organized chaos? Exactly. I know it, I feel it, but I'm stuck. We know what we need to do. We know what we have to do to move forward, but we're stuck because there's one thing that just doesn't seem to fit. And that's what we have to figure out. If you feel like you're a wildly independent person and your independence has suddenly been taken away because maybe you don't have the means to be as independent as you want to be, or maybe, you feel stuck somewhere and you don't feel like you're allowed to be independent somewhere, or maybe you're in a relationship where, you're not communicating, you're not compromising, and you feel like you're the one that's constantly giving, and the other person isn't, and you feel like your independence is taken away. There's all these different things. I've had relationships like that, and maybe that's why sometimes I think I'm single, because maybe I'm afraid that it's going to end up being that way again. But we have to trust. We have to know who we are. Sometimes we have to communicate and compromise with ourselves. Is the way we're doing it actually working? Or should we try a different way? Maybe someone has offered us a path and we don't want to take it because it's like, well, that's not something I would ever do. No. You can be independent and ask for help. You can be vulnerable and still be independent. Vulnerability is not a weakness, it's a strength. Believe it or not, it is a strength. Sometimes I think super independence is a weakness because we don't know how to learn how to lean on we don't learn how to lean on other people. We just figure we have to be the ones that do everything. We have to be the ones that get it right. We have to be the ones that, and it's not about kudos or anything. It's about being the person that is taking care of everybody else because we don't want them to have to worry about anything, to the detriment of our own health. And in a way, that's kind of what I've been doing. I've been mentally and emotionally being there for everybody else that, and my needs aren't being served. I'm giving, but no one's giving back. I mean, not older sibling. She's fine. But I mean, there's a lot of other people that just, they ask you for your help. They ask you for this. You ask you for that. And then you give it to them, but when you need something, they're not there. And you just feel so vulnerable, and you feel, you're vulnerable. You were trying to be vulnerable by asking for help. And it didn't pan out. And sometimes that's why I don't like to ask for help. That's why I don't want to be vulnerable around people. Because I feel like, what's the point? So I just give and give and give. And this isn't about me. This isn't about me saying, well, I want my kudos. I want this. I want that. No, it's not about that. When we ask for things from people, we have to be sure that we are in a position to give and receive. We have to be both. We have to figure out how to be both. And if you are unable to figure out how to do both, you may need to reevaluate your life. How are you handling things? How are you scheduling things in your life to make sure you get taken care of? I'm not mad when I reach out for help and don't receive anything back. Sometimes I get a little uppity about it and think, well, this is why I have to depend on myself because I'm so much more beyond everybody else, which isn't true. I'm no better than anyone else. And to be honest with you, it doesn't make me feel better to say that at the end of the day. I'm human. I'm human. Sometimes I have to tell myself that stuff because I feel like sometimes I'm the only person I can depend on. And it's not a reflection of anybody else out there. It's a reflection on me and me having the inability to open my mouth and say, I need help. I need someone to just sit there and be there and not say a word. I need someone to sit there and be there and let me bounce things off of them. And maybe that's the downside of being an only child. You don't have other people to talk to when you're growing up. You don't have other people your age to bounce things off of. And I was bullied a lot when I was a kid, so I didn't have, the super amount of friends that I would have liked during those really formative years to bounce things off of, but also I couldn't. I had too many secrets. I had a lot of things I had to hide. So these are the things where you have to reach back in, get primal with yourself, go in deep, do that shadow work. The wildling in you is basically that inner child saying, hey, I need to be heard. I need to be seen. And I need someone to hug me from time to time. I need someone to sit there and say, hey, what can I do for you? Like older sibling. And instead of me saying to her, don't ask me that again, I should just, if she asks me, just say, you know what, thank you for asking, but there's nothing right now. So that's a lesson for me as well. Someone's offering me help. I don't know how to accept it at the moment because I don't know what I need. But instead of saying, don't ask me that again, just say, you know what, thank you, but I don't know. Right now, nothing. Right now, I'm still trying to figure it out. And I have to learn how to compromise with that. And I'm very lucky to have someone like older sibling. And I'm very lucky to have a lot of the friends and family that I have that, I posted something the other day and two very unsuspecting people reached out to me. The people I don't normally get text messages from reached out and said, hey, you know what? This, and this. And it really warmed my heart. It was none of the usual suspects that would normally check in on me if they saw that kind of post. But you know what? We also can't expect people to just be there without it for us when we don't ask for help. Not everybody's a mind reader, okay? But we have to find that balance as the wildling. You don't want to be the unbalanced wildling. We're in a perpetual state of chaos trying to fix everybody else's problems because you don't know how to fix yours. We have to learn how to fix our problems on our own. And, we should be the balanced wildling who prioritizes freedom but remains grounded. They possess an instinct that may not make sense to others but never leads them astray. They are present to their own emotions and needs and will spend time on their personal development. A balanced wildling prioritizes self-care. And when they look in the mirror, they see someone they love. They see someone that says, hey, even on a bad day, we know we're going to get this. The unbalanced wildling looks in the mirror and just goes, ugh, I'm going to go to McDonald's and eat something. Because it is a perpetual state of chaos. Think of the Peanuts cartoons, right? With like Snoopy and all that. And they had Pigpen. And Pigpen was always walking around in this dust. Think of being the wildling as being Pigpen. Not because of all the dirt, but because that's all your thoughts, all your feelings, all your emotions. But they're no longer inside of you. They're swirling around you in chaos, in perpetual chaos. And then you walk by and you see like, I don't know, maybe Schroeder, right? Playing his piano, doing all his things, but just being confident in the fact that he can sit down at this little tiny toy piano and belt out a Beethoven. I mean, it's probably not the best metaphor, but like I said, my brain is only half going, but I really needed to get this today. And I really needed to help people understand that mental health is exactly this. It's all over the place. I mean, you saw in how many directions. That's why I always say it's a little bit of something and a whole lot of everything. And it's not meant to gain pity. I don't want anyone's pity. What I want is for people to really kind of understand how mental health works. That we're not always going to have these moments of absolute clarity And you don't even have to have a dinged up mental health like I do. You can just be a random person with the common, what I call common people blues, which means you don't have a dinged up mental health, but you have the blues. And when you have the blues, you have a little bit of a taste of what we sometimes go through for days on end. Where, you know, we can't find that clarity, where we just feel like Pigpen walking in that cloud of just emotions and feelings and words just swirling around. My brain never stops. Even when I'm trying to sleep, I go to sleep, my brain is going. I dream every night. I never have a break where I don't dream. And I know some people that, you know, I mean, I guess everybody dreams. Some people don't remember. Some people say, nope, didn't dream. But I dream, and I dream in color. Like, straight up Technicolor. So, my brain is always going. And sometimes we just have to figure out how to find that quiet within us. How to go into that shadow self. How to find that primal part of us that needs that attention. Okay, so, I know I was all over the place. I'm really, really sorry. So, if you want to get a more direct and less chatty version of this, you could probably go to my TikTok after this, because I'll put it up there and just read it through. But don't be afraid to be independent and vulnerable. All right, just use your spidey instincts if you're going to be vulnerable with someone. Make sure it's someone you can trust. Don't just be vulnerable with a stranger on the street. Okay, have your spidey instincts going. But, you know, it is okay to ask for help. Okay? So, I hope everybody has a wonderful, wonderful day. I'll see everybody back here tomorrow at 8 a.m. Pacific time, because I have stuff to do tomorrow. So I'm going to do my show half an hour early. So have a great, great day, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. Again, I'll be back here tomorrow at 8 a.m. Pacific time, Facebook Live. All lives are public. Anybody can watch. I also share it to my Facebook page and my YouTube channel, the Aloha Perspective. And, yeah. So I hope everybody has a great, great day, and thank you so much for watching.